In the last video, I showed you how to set up your tools so you can work with me in this Python tutorial. And if you didn't have any problems or errors, you should be seeing what I'm seeing on my screen right now. This is the PyCharm layout, the software that we will be using. Uh, in this part, we can actually write our code, as you can see. This is the file explorer. This is the root file of our project. This is the virtual environment. You don't have to worry about that. And this is the file that we are writing in our code. Down here is the Python console. You should see most of our output for about the entirety of this course inside this console. There's also the terminal if you want to run some commands, just like the CMD on your device if you are using Windows. And over here in this menu, you'll be using mostly this file tab as well as this run tab. The run tab for running and executing our files, the file tab for managing projects, and the settings of your IDE. So now this is a starter script which we will run right now. So head over to this run tab in the menu and press this run main.py. So as you can see, this is the console and it printed hi PyCharm. Now I will explain how you can print whatever you want and what is the print function. So get rid of all the script and let's start with the most basic function, which is print. We will print the very common hello world sentence. You will see this in any coding tutorial. This is how you start to learn any coding language. So now if we run the main.py, now we can run directly from this button. We don't have every time use this run main.py because it just the IDE remembers that, oh, this is the file you want to keep on running. So there you go. Hello world. Now let's talk about something we call a variable. We have many types of variables. You probably heard of variables in math, which is basically uh, like a container, if you want. For example, x equals 10. So x is the name of the variable and it has a value of 10, right? So variables in programming are very useful because I can now use x instead of writing 10 everywhere. So I can now print x instead of writing 10. So let's run this, and there you go, it printed 10. So another variable would be 1.0, and we have z. Let's write hello, and w will be true. So we will talk about something called variable data types. So We have types for each variable. For the first variable that we have created, x is 10. So its type is an integer. So integers are basically full numbers, like 10 in this example. So the type of x is integer. Now for y, its type is a float, because as you can see, it's not a full number. It has a dot and it's a decimal value, so it could be 1.5. It's not a full number like 10. Z would be called a string, which is a string of characters that make up a sentence or a word. Now W is something we call a boolean. This can only have a true or false value. Uh, only This can be used in conditional programming, which will be the topic of our next video. It's like a switch, if you want. It's like an on-off, but here it's only true or false, and we will see its usage later on. So these are four variables along with their respective data types. You should remember these because these are very important to remember and distinguish. So now let's use some of them. Let's actually learn how to ask the user to input something. So let's create a new variable called user input, right? And by the way, you should know how to name your variables. Variables should start with a lowercase letter, and you can't have spaces. So if I add a space, automatically the IDE will tell me that something is wrong, right? Yeah, so you should use underscores wherever you want a space, and you can capitalize every letter, but by convention it's better to keep the first character of your variable name a lowercase letter. So now to take the input of the user, we write input and then we open up the parentheses. Just like the print method we used, you write the name of the method and then you open up the parentheses. So if you want to write the print, we write the name of it, and the IDE sometimes tells you like what you want to actually do. So now inside the input, it usually takes in a string type of variable. So let's open up a string and write in enter a value. Inside of the print, you can add in user input. So what we're doing here is we create a variable called user input. We take the input from the user and then we're gonna print it. So let's run, enter a value. Let's say I wanna write hello. It will print hello. Very simple way of doing that. Now let's use up some of the variables we have created. So let's say we have x, right? Create a variable r and we put it equal to x. So now r has the value of x, which is an integer. So if we remove the user input and we want to print r, it will print 10. Now there's a useful method, just like the print method, called type, and you open up the parentheses and we place r. So this will print us the type of R. So as you can see, it's an integer type, right? Because X is an integer. Well, what if we wanna convert this into a float for any reason that might be? Well, we can write float, open up the parentheses again because this is a method to convert, and let's run, and there we go. R is now a float. So this is a way to manipulate variables. This will come in useful in this example I'm about to show you. So let's say you want to take in again a user input, and we write in input enter a value, right? And we want to print out the user input. Well, let's say we want to print the user input and uh, 10 right next to it. If we do this, and let's say write 9, as you can see here, you will get an error that says type error can only concatenate str to str, not int to str. So here, the type conversion will come in handy because when we took the input from the user, by default it's gonna be a string, but we're adding plus 10 to it, which is wrong because you can't just add an integer to a string. That wouldn't work. So if we convert our input to an integer and now we run, let's say 9, there we go, now it works. You get 19 because now the types are compatible. This user input type is now an integer and you can add another integer to it. So that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.